Hi class, welcome again to another session on rehabilitation engineering. So we have discussed couple of calipers, the foot orthosis and the ankle foot orthosis. So let us move on to discussing the knee ankle foot orthosis. So like the name suggests, it is going to support your knee, your ankle as well as your foot. So knee joints are available in a caliper to facilitate knee flexion while being seated. So when you are seated, you do not want your leg to be extended because A, that's not a normal seating position. It compromises with your other muscles, and B, you pose a risk of tripping other people over, right? If you're sitting with an open in an open chair with your knee elongated, right? Then if someone else is walking past without noticing, then they can trip over, and it's not manners, right? Even properly, when you're seated in a chair, you expect your legs to be folded at 90 degrees, right? So a knee joint in a caliper should facilitate this feature. So while walking, the knee should be rigidly locked in an extended position, and this will result in a stable knee. However, if we observe during our gait cycle, during the swing phase, we want our knee to be flat, right? So this is a drawback of this particular setup, because if the knee is locked while the person is standing, then during walking as well, it's not going to close, it's not going to allow any flexion, so that would result in a very stiff knee gait walking of that particular person. So the person walks with a very stiff knee gait. So there are three different types of knee joints. So you have the straight set knee joint. So this allows free flexion and prevents hyperextension. The upper segment rotates about a single transverse axis, right? Then you have the polycentric knee joint, which allows double axis systems to simulate the flexion and extension movements of the femur and the tibia at the knee joint. So this would result in a more natural walking. And then the posterior offset knee joint, this gives patients those who have weakened quadriceps, right? Quads are your front thigh muscle. So these posterior offset knee joints are prescribed to people with weak quadriceps, and it keeps the knee extended, so there's not enough stance control, right? You do not have it's always extended, so it's very very difficult to have a proper gait. So that's a disadvantage. But if you have weak quadriceps, so you have no other option but to go for posterior offset knee joint, because otherwise you can't walk at all. Now there are various types. I said right, that the knee joint the knee joint in an AFO would allow flexion while seated, and while extended, it locks in a particular position. So these are mechanical locks that are present in a knee joint, and they are of very different types. So and these are used to stabilize the orthosis. So first one is the drop lock, which is a wedge-shaped metal piece that is placed on the lateral upright bar. So when the knee extends, it drops over the joint and locks it. So this is very very common in India. So when you are seated and when you extend, so the bar will just, because of gravity, the bar will just drop on a particular slot, and that will lock the orthosis such that it keeps the knee extended. Then you have the spring loaded lock. So in the problem with drop lock is, the patient has, if they are trying to sit, the patient has to reach for the knee and then manually unlock the joint, which will finally allow them to flex their leg. So sometimes while seated, it is very very hard for the patient to reach for the or the patient might find it difficult to reach for the lock, or they might be a bit embarrassed. If everyone is sitting normally, and every time I sit, I have to reach for a lock, unlock it, and then fold my legs. So often patients are embarrassed to do so in public. So a spring loaded lock is added to the drop ring lock, right? So this provides automated locking using the spring action rather than depending upon the gravity. So this is easier to lock and unlock. So there's a spring that would compression and extension of the spring would be operating the lock. Then next you have the cam lock. So this is used along with the spring-loaded cam fits in this along with the spring-loaded lock, and the cam fits into a groove in full extension. So there's a groove-like structure into which the cam fits in, and it is easier to release and gives good stability. So in double upright bar, right, you have to simultaneously lock and unlock both the sides, right, both the lateral and the medial part of the bar need to be locked simultaneously and and unlocked simultaneously in order to facilitate extension and flexion. So you have two bars running both on the inner part of the knee and the outer part of the knee. So both these locks have to be locked and unlocked simultaneously in order to give rigidity and stability to the orthosis. So this cam lock is often used there because it facilitates simultaneous locking and unlocking of the bars in around the knee joint. So it is indicated in weight bearing braces where semi-automatic locking is required. So then you have the ball lock, which provides an easy method of unlocking medial and lateral knee joints. So medial is towards the midline and lateral is away from the midline. So the patient can catch the edge of the ball. The patient can catch the ball on the edge of the chair and release it in the lock mechanism, then permitting it to sit. So it's just close of the lock. The ball is just quite close to the chair. So it is very easy for them to lock and unlock it while they are trying to sit or stand upright. You have the dial lock, which is adjusted every 6 degrees with precise control of knee flexion. So this is like a more robotic kind of lock. So it would be similar to a stepper motor, right? Every time there's a 6-degree flexion of the knee, the lock actually holds the brace in various positions. So it can, like, during the swing phase, every time the knee is flexing by 6 degrees, the lock is automatically locking it, and then while extending it is like unlocking. So the user has to like exert force manually while trying to unlock, and that would lead to the knee in extension. So this is more like robotic technology. Finally, you have the plunger type lock, which is cosmetically more appealing because it is concealed in the knee mechanism. So it is usually indicated for people with hand weakness because they find it difficult to reach for the lock and unlock it. There's quite a lot of pressure involved in it. So that's why plunger lock it's like more automatic. So you have various types of. I've just put a photograph of how a knee ankle foot orthosis looks like. So you have straps around your thigh, which is the quads, and then you have the knee brace, and then you have the medial and lateral uprights, and then you have the ankle and foot support as well. So this is a side view. So you have this is called as a quadricep pad, or so it is like supporting the quads, and then you have the straps that are supporting your hamstrings, and then you have something that supports your shin as well, and then the AFO, entire AFO, right? So this is how a knee ankle foot orthosis looks like. So indications of KAFOs. So they are generally prescribed under the following circumstances. A, there is weakness of muscle controlling the hip and the knee movement. Then second is people with upper motor neuron lesion that impairs locomotion function. And then loss of structural integrity due to an injury to the main tendon and problem in load bearing. So if there is any of these indications, then KAFOs are prescribed. Now the last one in our calipers is HKAFOs, just a small topic, so I just thought I'd squeeze it in this video itself. So this is an extension of your knee ankle foot orthosis, and it also supports the hip joint by allowing only flexion and extension of the hip. It does not promote adduction and abduction of the hip. So the suspension is formed through a pelvic band, right? It's like an abdominal belt that rests in the iliac crest. So we all know that the pubic bone or the pelvic bone consists of 3 bones, the ilium, ischium and the pubis, right? So iliac crest is where your head of the femur fits the pelvis. So this is like a band that is like rigidly fitting the iliac crest. So it will not allow, if the iliac crest is rigidly fitted, then the bone can only move forward and backward. It cannot move away and towards the body. So it just provides flexion and extension of your knee. It does not like facilitate adduction and abduction. So in the front, it is strapped through buckle or velcro, because all of us have different waist size, right? So that's why you can't like customize each and every AFOs. I mean, you can have general size like small, medium and large, depending upon how tall the person is and how wide their pelvis is. But then you can't have a size 24 to size 36 or size 42 in a KAFO, HKAFO, right? So yeah, you need something that is adjustable. Therefore, there's a buckle or a velcro. Basically your pelvis should be your iliac crest should be tightly supported, but the adipose around it has to be supported through flexibility of the buckle and the velcro, right? And then you have the lateral side, which is connected by a lateral upright or a bar to a normal KAFO, and on the medial side the upright stops at the ischial region. So medially it comes till upper thigh, laterally it goes from your iliac crest to your knee ankle foot orthosis, right? So this device helps in improving balance and posture and is assisted for better control gait. And HKAFOs are prescribed whenever the muscle controlling the hip and its hip is weak, and the stability of the hip is compromised or strained. So this is a general diagram, a general figure of how a HKAFO looks like. So it starts with a foot orthosis, then an ankle foot orthosis, then a knee ankle foot orthosis, and then finally you have the thigh band, and then the quad support, and you have the hip joint and the ischial ring, etc. I hope you had a very fruitful session learning about calipers with me. I shall see you again in another video where we shall discuss prosthetic devices. Thank you very much for watching.